All right. UFC Fight Night Moicano versus Duncan just took place last night, and it turns out it wasn't as bad as we all thought it was going to be. Actually turned out to be kind of a decent card overall. So we're going to recap all the fights starting from the early prelims, and we're going to start off with Kai Kamaka III versus Dakota Hope. Now, I want to talk about Kai Kamaka, third of his name, king of the Andals and the Hawaiians and all that. I mean, he put on a hell of a performance. This was actually both of them, This was fight of the night material easily. Great fight to start off the early prelims. Both of them came out. You could tell they both really wanted to win. Dakota Hope went out there, almost finished Kai Kamaka in the third in the first round, and basically had him in a horrible, horrible spot. But Kai Kamaka used that crafty vet status. He pulled through, won the next round, won the round after that, and won the fight, and made his coach Eric Nixick cry. Bit of a Rocky type story, bit of a Cinderella Man story. Really, really cool fight overall. Dakota Hope, looked good, but you got to work on managing your stamina, brother. And I ended up being right with this pick. Thank God. I was a little nervous there, but Kai Kamaka pulls through. Excellent fight to start off the card. We move on to Diane Barbosa versus Melissa El Gato Negro. Gato. Unofficial nickname by me, by the way. This was a real interesting fight. We thought it was just going to be a normal women's MMA fight at first until the second round, where Melissa Gatto is on the ground. She did actually have some success with the grappling at the beginning. So she ends up on the canvas. And when she gets up, she she eats a kick from Diane Barbosa. Didn't hit her on the chin, though. Basically hit her like right on the neck or like the sternum or whatever. Did not hit her on the chin. Also wasn't legal because although her hands were down, her knees were just barely off the canvas, and the officials agreed with me. So wasn't illegal, but it was really, really, really close. I'm not gonna lie. When I saw the kick, man, I started celebrating. I thought it was like one of those delayed reaction sleepers. But no, she was just acting because that shit did not hit her chin, and unfortunately, she did not. Or I guess fortunately for all of us, the fans, she did not get the DQ win. Shout out to the commentary team for being a bunch of shills and immediately saying that the fight is over, which I guess in any other instance, that fight would have been a DQ. Thank goodness it was not. Good win for Diane Barbosa. All I have to say about this is I think soccer kicks should absolutely be legal. All right, if we're going to allow oblique kicks and all these other horrible career-ending injuries, all right. Let's add some soccer kicks. Come on. They're fun. All right. We should be able to punish all these crotch-sniffling grapplers. We move on. Speaking of crotch-sniffling grapplers, Asmat, whatever the hell his name is, versus Trayshawn Gore. I'm not even going to give him the respect of saying his name right because he was being a dirty little crotch-sniffling little daggy in this fight. He looks daggy, but I think he's just a normal Russian. Trayshawn Gore, kind of a very inconsistent fighter, has beaten some guys in the UFC. No one of note at all. I picked him to lose this fight, ends up getting that big upset win. And this other guy kind of just looked like shit. He was taking him down, but he couldn't really hold him. Eventually, he goes for a takedown, gets caught in a ghillie, and gets put to sleep by Trayshawn Gore. Great post-fight speech by him. Great win by him. No performance bonus. Sus. You're going to start seeing that a lot on the card. There's been a lot of discussion about who the hell is giving out these bonuses because it's true. Doesn't really make sense all the time. And speaking of weird bonuses, Alice Pereira versus Haley Cohen. Now, don't get me wrong. That knockout was pretty nasty. Alice Pereira was getting held down in the second round. I thought that, young, inexperienced is somehow going to lose to Haley Cohen, who, let's just be real, just doesn't really belong in the cage with any of these other girls. I felt real bad for her because by the end of the fight, after that knockout, her face was bloodied up, beat up. I felt a little bad for her, but man, that was pretty insane. Watching her get held down for like most of the round, and then all of a sudden she just springs back up to her feet and just pow. That was pretty crazy. I'm not going to lie. I did not see Alice Pereira's debut performance on Noche UFC, but I did hear that she lost that fight, but I heard that she was looking pretty decent, so I thought that she was going to win this fight. I picked her to win this fight, but let me tell you, this was not necessarily performance of the night worthy. I guess in terms of the fact that she was on her way to get smudged into the canvas and lose the fight and gets the knockout, but man, those first couple of seconds, first couple of minutes in the first round really, really scared me. with the striking of Alice Pereira. She really scared me because, man, I've never seen such ugly striking in my life. I mean, no offense. I mean this in I don't know how you can say this in a nice way, but she was fighting like a girl. She was out there throwing windmills, and it was not a good look at all. But she ends up getting the win. Has kind of a wild post-fight speech, if I remember. I think she said something about fighting for a female BMF belt in her post-fight interview, which is insane. No, absolutely not. We move on. Lando Venata versus Darius Flowers ends up getting the win over Lando Venata from like a Rampage Jackson powerbomb. I ended up picking Lando Venata, and I should have just gone with my gut because I felt like this guy was going to come back looking old. And I had a feeling something like this could happen. But, I just decided to pick him because I end up seeing a few clips. I end up seeing some of his old knockouts. I'm like, man, this guy has the potential to pull out a crafty little win here. Darius Flowers, I thought he just really, really freaking sucked. And I still think he's not amazing by any stretch of the imagination, but he it was a tit for tat battle, I believe, at the beginning. I think that Darius Flowers ends up going for a takedown, and Lando Venata catches him in a guillotine, and Darius Flowers, super freaking strong, just lifts this dude up, slams him on the ground, and ends up breaking one of his ribs. I was coping big time. I was just saying to myself, man, he probably just winded himself, just knocked the wind out of himself. He'll be fine. He'll be fine. Not the case at all. That thing was poking out, man. It was ugly. And then, like the smart guy that he is, Lando Venata, goes for a takedown with his broken rib. Only he knows how hurt he was. I mean, I know I sound like Dana White, but only he knows how much it hurt. But I'm guessing if it hurt that bad, man, why'd you go grappling? Goes for the takedown, ends up getting reversed, gets slammed on the canvas again. He starts grimacing. He did not look like he was enjoying that at all. Gets TKO'd. Sucks for Lando Venata. Darius Flowers gets on the mic, has a pretty cool post-fight speech. Good for him. Lando Venata, unfortunately, does not still have it. We move on to another sus performance of the night bonus. Alejandro Costa versus Stuart Nickel. Don't get me wrong. Alessandro Costa got himself a nasty liver punch finish against Stuart Nickel. But Stuart Nickel hasn't won in the UFC yet. We got to give props to Stuart Nickel. He's always coming out to strike. He went out there, man. He was smiling. He was cheesing. He looked like he was enjoying himself in there. Stuart Nickel, even though he can't get himself a win in the UFC, man, I like the guy. All right. I'm not sure how much longer he has, but I hope he can stay in the UFC for one more fight because the man just loves being in there. He brought it. But Alessandro Costa, just by the end of it, he just outdogged him. And man, he landed a nasty, nasty liver strike in the apex as well. So we all heard that disgusting finish. Great win for Alessandro Costa. What was I going to say? There's something I'm forgetting. But yeah, kind of a sus performance of the night bonus, though, because again, he's fighting a guy who doesn't have a win in the UFC yet. But, they like these type of dudes. This is like he's one of those Brazilian guys who really likes Mexico. So fake Mexican. We know how the UFC loves Mexicans. They will always get special treatment. So maybe that's why they gave him a little extra 100K. I'm sure it'll go a long way for him. We move on to the featured fight of the prelims. Guilherme Pat versus Thomas the Train Peterson. Choo choo, baby. The train has reached the station. Thomas Peterson gets himself a good win in Guilherme Pat. Decent win, I would say, because he was undefeated. But I did actually originally pick Guilherme Pat to win, just simply for the fact that he was massive. He's a big, big heavyweight, 6-0. He's a striker. I could see him knocking out a fat, plotty version of Thomas Peterson. But Thomas Peterson came out looking a little leaner, looking significantly less blobby than normal. And the second I saw that, and I heard the commentary team say that Guilherme Pat was a karate specialist, I was like, oh man, I fucked up. I picked the wrong guy to win this fight. And I immediately thought, man, I should have picked Thomas Peterson. And he was the favorite for a reason. I will concede. So far, other than this fight, actually, I'm pretty sure other than Lando Venata. So I guess we're going average. But, in terms of this fight, I will admit, not a smart choice on my part. Thomas Peterson goes out there, has a classic, heavyweight grappling performance. Not too bad of a fight either. Almost finishes him at the end of the third round. If you were betting on this fight to go to the distance, I'm sure you were biting your freaking nails. But it does end up going to the distance. Guilherme Pat loses. This man needs to lose jitters a little bit. I'm not even sure if he's gonna get re-signed because he did not really show anything in the fight. I think they said that he was supposed to compete on Dana White's Contender Series and end up falling through, ends up just getting a fight, and he got a decently tough fight, I guess. But man, that right there was like the most Dana White's Contender Series looking performance I ever seen. Like that was that was not pretty. Was just not throwing enough. Guillermo Pat, I don't know what they're gonna do with him. Maybe they should cast him in a movie and have him playing a big scary bodyguard or something. We move on to the main card: Jose Delano versus Robert Ruchala. Now, this was a pretty cool fight. I picked Jose Delano to win this one, and he did win pretty handedly. For me, I just thought it was complete domination, in my opinion. But Robert Ruchala was holding in there, I guess. You know, he's a tough, tough dude. He was just eating a lot of these shots, surprisingly, because this ain't a flyweight fight. This is featherweight. He was eating these shots, but at the end of the day, Jose Delano gets the win. Not much else to say about that. We move on to the fight of the night: Tommy McMillan versus Malono Zucchini. Kind of crazy. Don't get me wrong. First round TKO. Okay, cool, cool. But he's fighting Zucchini, guys. I mean, come on. Also, Tommy Guns went out there and beat up a cab driver and didn't necessarily look that good. This dude was just swinging wild, wild punches. I mean, the one thing that I can give him about his performance on the Contender Series was he looked tough. Didn't necessarily look the best, but I knew he was going to win this fight because they put him up against an absolute can. Again, Zucchini, one single UFC appearance, loses to Martin Charrier. Just you watch this guy's post-fight or pre-fight speech before he's walking out, man, and you just know that he's going to lose. This guy's a lamb to slaughter. So hopefully he made money off this fight. But man, if they give Tommy McMillan any type of tough fight in his division, I'm not picking him to win, especially at featherweight, man. I just see this guy getting absolutely smoked by literally everyone at featherweight. I mean, hot prospect. I really, really hope that he's the favorite in his next fight because I will be picking against this man. He just looked wild. He didn't look that great to me, but he gets the win. He gets a TKO. Let's put him up against an actual opponent, though. How about that? Good win for Sean O'Malley. Fight of the night, though. Come on, Dana. Come on, bro. Come on, bro. We move on. Ethan Ewing versus Rafael Estevan. Rafael Estevan versus Ethan Ewing. Justice for my boy, the Professor Finesser, Ethan Ewing. He put on a freaking hell of a performance. Second fight in the UFC, and twice in a row, this guy's taking undefeated prospects in stylish fashion. Ethan Ewing went out there and he freaking styled on Rafael Estevan. I did pick him to win. I thought that Rafael Estevan could give him a little trouble, but man, I mean, Ethan Ewing went out there, man, and he dominated. At least I would think so. I mean, don't get me wrong. He was getting clipped here and there as he does in his fights, but he has great head movement, great footwork, defensively sound, always keeps his hands where he needs them to be. I mean, he just does everything right. This guy's a serious contender at bantamweight. These guys at bantamweight are already ridiculously skilled. Ethan Ewing, I can easily see him in the rankings. I could honestly see them giving them a guy like, I don't know, off the top of my head, someone like Marcus McGee. All right. I could see him beating Marcus McGee. And you can give him any number of guys that you can name that are in the top 10 in bantamweight right now. The only thing that I fear for is that this man has a massive, massive cranium. He's a big old noggin, huge head. And I can just weirdly see him getting his whole jaw spun. You know what I mean? Just like that big head with that small, skinny body. It worries me. But Ethan Ewing is freaking good, man. You guys need to have him on your radar. I'm definitely picking him in his next fight, no matter who it is. Give him Piotr Jan. All right, he's beating Piotr Jan. I'm a Professor Finesser believer. Excellent win from Ethan Ewing. No performance bonus is absolutely insane, though. The UFC needs to put some respect on this man's name. Pathetic. You bald fraud, Dana. Do your job. We move on. Abdul Rahman Yakiev versus Brendan Ribeiro. Not much to say about this one. Abdul over here, the Turkish power, did what he had to do against Brendan Ribeiro. Brendan Ribeiro, as I said in my prediction video, wasn't even supposed to be in the UFC. Got himself a fluke knockout, basically, while he was losing. And he's decent. He can beat decent guys, but I just knew that he was going to get absolutely run through in this fight. Was probably the easiest money you could make. I think the Abdul was probably the biggest betting favorite of the whole card. So, the bettors clearly knew something was up. And, yeah, not much to say about this performance. Great win for Yakiev. We move on. Vienna Jandiroba versus Tabitha Ricci. Again, not much to say about this. It was your basic run-of-the-mill women's performance. Jandiroba, I knew she had the grappling advantage. Tabitha Ritchie hasn't really beaten that many good girls. Janaroba's been in there with the who's who. So she did what she had to do, man. She did what she always does. She grappled, she smudged it up, she took Tabitha Ritchie down, she held her there, and that's all she wrote. We move on to the main event. Renato Money Moicano versus Chris Duncan. The problem. Now, the problem with Chris Duncan is that he looked like absolute shit in this fight. I picked Chris Duncan to win this fight, and unfortunately, I was wrong. It turns out Unk still got it, brother. Unk still got it. Moicano looked great out there. That jab was like a piston, kept it out there, man, was checking all the leg kicks. Chris Duncan, I mean, had no answers. He just looked like an absolute scrub out there. I mean, he threw a couple of punches, threw a couple of kicks. All those kicks were checked. You know, I thought that Chris Duncan was going to be able to tough it out. I thought that Renato Moicano, did not have the kind of pop in his shots to hurt Duncan. Boy, was I wrong. Ends up dropping Chris Duncan in the second round. Just when I thought Duncan was actually making it a little more wild, a little more crazy. I knew that something like that could happen where he could probably lose the first round or drop the first two. But I knew that Chris Duncan, he's a survivor. He ain't going to give up. All right. Whatever else that song says. I knew that he was going to be able to tough it out and get through it. Little did we know that Chris Duncan's corner would have an absolute banger, some absolute banger advice for Chris Duncan. While Moicano is on his back after he just dropped Duncan, blood leaking out of his face, leaking out of his nose, can barely breathe. You got a submission specialist on your back with a body triangle, right? You would know that the one thing you can do is just fight the hands. Because if you don't fight the hands, you're fucked. Or you could just do the great Scottish strategy of throw a surprise elbow and see if it'll land. I want to know who the hell in his corner was the one to scream surprise elbow. I want to find that man and I want to say, screw you, dude. You sold my parlay, you bastard. I think that even with the broken nose, I know it sounds like delusional, it sounds like cope. I think that Chris Duncan maybe could have worked his way back into the fight, but maybe not. I mean, this is just what Moicano does, man. Once he gets that lead on you, he's going to mess you up. He has some of the best ground and pound in that division, and he's just underrated, man. He's underrated. He beats a lot of these guys who are just not so great. And, I'll give Chris Duncan the benefit of the doubt. I'm just going to chalk this up to it was a bad night for him. They were former training partners. And I knew this going in, but I didn't think that they knew each other as well as they did, honestly. I thought that they just kind of trained with each other a handful of times. I didn't know that they both went to the same gym. So that would have been nice to know. But what else is there to say? Moicano went out there. He looked like a world eater. As I said, financially motivated Moicano is basically a mythical fighter, like on par with C-level Cain Velasquez and motivated Conor McGregor, So can't really hate on him. The question is, who are you going to give to Renato Moicano? A lot of people are saying Dan Hooker. That would be pretty fun. I kind of feel like the UFC is going to go in a Paddy Pimblett direction. I kind of thought they were going to do that fight a while ago instead of doing the whole Bobby Green thing. I just know that the UFC is always going to give Paddy Pimblett the easiest fight possible. And although Moicano is pretty underrated, I think that he is beatable by a good grappler like Paddy. I think a good grappler kind of nullifies his game. Because how in the hell did this man, Moicano, lose to Beneil Dariush? That's the real thing. How did Dariush beat this man? And then Dariush loses to BSD, but then Moicano beats BSD. Doing MMA math is basically pointless. So no point in playing that game. But I will say, in a rematch between Moicano and BSD, I'm not so sure if it'll go the same way it did the first time. I will say that. I think if you take guys who are high up there in the top 10, I think most of them beat Moicano. But sure, Moicano can get through an unranked Chris Duncan. But he will come back. I'm just not so sure if I'm going to pick Chris Duncan again. I mean, holy shit. Looked like a scrub out there, man. And he sold. He sold, goddammit. Next week, we got a big old pay-per-view. Yuri Prohaska versus Carlos Oberg for UFC 328. I'm losing count of the events at this point. But that's because we're casuals, and we don't know how to count here. Be there. My fight prediction video will be coming soon. Yeah.